Oh, and this is real special, ladies and gentlemen. If you look to your left, you will see in his native habitat, the booktuber. He has proclaimed himself to be on a book buying ban, but as is common with his species, he has gone and done something very terrible. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean, and today I am doing a birthday book haul slash part 4 of all my signed books. So let's get into it. First, let's go with some non-signed books. First is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret by Judy Blume. This is a book off the top 1000 list, 1000 Books to Read Before You Die by James Mustich. I actually don't know anything whatsoever about this book. I've heard of the title, but I don't know anything about it. So I'll be reading it completely blind, not knowing anything about it. Next are a few books by Tim O'Brien. If you've seen my channel before, you know I have raved about his book, The Things They Carried. And I also read In the Lake of the Woods, which is another book by him I have signed. So after reading The Things They Carried and In the Lake of the Woods, Tim O'Brien became a must-read author for me. I absolutely love his writing. So the books I got are, I don't know how to say it, but it's Going After Casiedo? I don't know, but this is one of his popular books. The bookstore owner especially said this was a great book, so I'm definitely excited to read it. I also got If I Die in a Combat Zone, which I think may have been his first book, and it's referenced quite a bit in The Things They Carried, I think. So I'm definitely excited to give it a read. I think he used some of the stories from this book in The Things They Carried. I don't know, but I'm definitely excited to read it. And finally, The Nuclear Age. So basically at this point, every single Tim O'Brien book is a must-read, must-buy for me. I'm going to read everything he's ever written. I think he's great. Next, one of the books I got for my birthday is This House of Sky by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Ivan Doig. This is a book off the top 1000 list, and what's kind of funny is they have like 15 or 20 signed books by Ivan at the bookstore, but they do not have this book signed. So I've always kind of been looking for it, hoping to see a signed copy of it since there's so many signed copies there, but there was none. So finally I just asked the bookstore owner, hey, do you have a copy of This House of Sky? And he said, yeah, but it's not signed. He of course knows I love signed books, but since it's a top 1000 book, I wanted to get it because it's on my to read list. I did not get a signed book by him. One reason is because I don't know which book to get. Like, there's so many to choose from. Which one should I get? Also, since there are so many of them, I don't need to worry about like losing an opportunity to get a signed book by him because I know there's going to be signed copies of his books at the bookstore. So there's no rush whatsoever. So kind of my thinking is I'll read this book, see if I even remotely like it, and then if I do, then go back and get a signed book by him. Next, another book I got from my birthday book haul is Paul Theroux, The Great Railway Bazaar. So this is unsigned, but it is a top 1000 book. So they actually have a couple signed books by Paul Theroux at the bookstore, but since I don't know the author, I didn't know which one to get. And anyway, on the cover of this book, it says best-selling author of The Kingdom by the Sea. So I looked, and what do you know? The Kingdom by the Sea was one of the signed books they had by Paul Theroux. So I figured that was a little bit of kismet there, that since The Great Railway Bazaar is a top 1000 book, and it says on the cover by the author of The Kingdom by the Sea, and since they had a signed copy of The Kingdom by the Sea, I figure, well, it must be a fairly decent book if that's what's on the cover of this one. So anyway, I just got it. Next, I have already mentioned this one on my channel, but I have a signed copy of The Reserve by Russell Banks. I got this one pretty much taking a chance on it because his book, The Sweet Hereafter, was on the top 1000 list. And I saw they had a few signed books by Russell Banks and they had The Sweet Hereafter. So I was like, what the heck, I'll take a risk on it and get The Sweet Hereafter unsigned and this book, The Reserve, signed. Again, just taking a chance on it. And so I read The Sweet Hereafter and I absolutely loved that book. That was one of my favorite books of all time. So As soon as I knew I loved that book and I would give it a 5-star, I went back to the bookstore to get the other book, the other signed book by Russell Banks. And so I did, and that's Affliction. So I got both signed books by Russell Banks. I was at the bookstore the other day for my birthday, and I noticed they had like 4 or 5 other Russell Banks books, not signed. But anyway, I loved The Sweet Hereafter so much that Russell Banks pretty much became a must-read, must-buy author for me. So if any of those books were signed, I definitely would have gotten them, but they weren't, so I was like, well, I'll save them for another day. But since I know I'm going to want to read pretty much everything he's written, since that book was so great, The Sweet Hereafter, I'll probably go back to the bookstore next week and get all of those. So Russell Banks definitely won me over. So now I have 2 signed books by him, The Reserve and Affliction. Next, I actually got this book a few weeks ago, but I think I've mentioned it elsewhere on my channel somewhere, but not in all my signed books video. And that is Elmore Leonard, a signed copy Kill Shot. Elmore Leonard is actually on the top 1000 list, I think for the book La Brava or something like that. Now, they did used to have 2 signed books by Elmore Leonard, maybe 3, I don't know. And I know he's kind of a popular author, but I didn't know if I would enjoy him, and I didn't know which of those books I should get. I didn't definitely care about him enough or think he's famous enough to get the books at the time. So anyway, I was kind of just like thinking I'll wait on that. But then I noticed 1 or 2 of the other books was bought. So this was the only book left. So since I knew he's a popular author and since he is on the top 1000 list and I knew he must be in demand because someone bought the other signed book, I had to rush to get this because I knew I did not want to lose the opportunity while I still had it. So I just got it. So I don't know if at all if I will like his books or if I'll like this book, but I am definitely going to read the book on the top 1000 list. Again, I think it's La Brava. So anyway, I'm glad at least that I snagged a signed copy of one of his books. I don't know at all what to expect. I do know a lot of people, though, do kind of like Elmore Leonard, so I am curious to give it a try. I don't know at all, actually, what he writes. Just from the look of it, I think it's kind of like spycraft stuff. Sort of along the lines of like Robert Ludlum, Lee Child, who I have a signed book from right up there. So yeah, I'm interested to give it a read, but not really super excited about it. So I'm interested though. Next is another signed book that I'm really excited I got. I got it about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, but that is Sailor Songs, signed by Ken Kesey. Ken Kesey is the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which I'm currently reading and I'm about 80 pages away from finishing. So I think One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was one of the 22 books I put on my 22 books to read in 2022 list. And so I was reading it and I was really liking it. And so I went to the bookstore one day and went behind the counter where he has some more like rare books. And I was browsing for any signed books, and I saw this. And I was like, Ken Kesey, the author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I'm currently reading that. I love that. How have I not seen this before? Because I would have definitely gotten it. So the bookstore owner said like, oh yeah, I just got that like a week ago. So anyway, I'm really excited to get a copy of it. As soon as I saw it, I knew I had to buy it because I am loving One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think it's a great book. I thought that even before I got this book. So when I saw this, I was just really excited. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest author. So, yeah. Okay, this is a book I actually got about 2 months ago, maybe. But that is Willa Cather, Obscure Destinies, signed. Now, Willa Cather is the author of O Pioneers and Maya Antonia and a few other books. And she was really popular in like the 1920s, 1930s. So what's really cool about this, I mean, I don't know about using that word, but Willa Cather died in 1947. So she died in the frickin' 40s, and I have a signed book by her, so that's real cool. I think she is probably like the oldest author I have a signed book from. What I think is great about this is I think Willa Cather would belong among such names as like Ernest Hemingway, not quite Mark Twain, but like Jack London, John Steinbeck, F. Scott Fitzgerald. She's kind of contemporaries of all of them, or maybe even for a few of them came before them. So she's definitely like a classic American author. And something that's real cool is her book, My Antonia. F. Scott Fitzgerald, the author of The Great Gatsby, said that he thought The Great Gatsby was not as good a book as My Antonia, which I have not read yet. So anyway, I saw this book at the bookstore and I was really tempted to buy it, but I held off for a while because it was more expensive. But anyway, I wound up just having to get it because Willa Cather is such a great American author. She was really the most popular author in like the 1920s, 1930s. She was one of the best-selling authors in America. So she's definitely a real notable author. So I'm really excited to have gotten a signed copy by one of her books. I did read Oh Pioneers a bit, and reading my review, I say I actually read like 120, maybe even 150 pages. But in my review, I said, I just can't really get into it. The writing's okay, but I'm just not loving it. But now that I have a signed book by her, I think I may give all of her books really a try, including Oh Pioneers. So anyway, I'm just glad I got a signed copy of it. I think it is my oldest autograph now, so I'm really stoked about it. The last 3 books are all books I got for my birthday book haul. So first is The Undertaking by Thomas Lynch, and this is a signed book, and it's off the top 1000 list. So I'm definitely interested in giving it a read. I don't know anything about it or the author. Next is A Time to Heal, signed by Gerald Ford, President Ford. So this is my 4th presidential autograph. So now I have The Vantage Point, signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ. The Memoirs of Richard Nixon, signed by Richard Nixon. A Time to Heal by Gerald Ford. And My Life by Bill Clinton. So I have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I'd actually seen this book at the bookstore before, but I didn't get it. I guess just because I was like, Gerald Ford, I don't really care. But anyway, so I was there for my birthday and I was like, he is still a president, so I want to get it. And so I opened it up thinking it'd be like $100, but it's only $40. And I asked the bookstore owner, like, hey, why is this only $40? And he's like, well, it's just not really in high demand. That's just what they go for. So anyway, it's not an expensive book, but still, it's a president. Last on the book haul is A Fine Balance, signed by Rohinton Mystery. I did not know anything about this book. I'd never heard of it before, but I looked it up on Wikipedia, which I usually wouldn't do because I like to not know anything about books before I read them. But I guess I looked it up because I didn't know anything about it. Like, is this an important book at all or what? Why is this book on the top 1000 list? And apparently, what is said on Wikipedia is that this book is often mentioned as one of the top 10 greatest books to ever come out of Asia. So apparently this is a real popular, great book. And I got a signed copy of it. So I'm definitely intrigued to read it. And that will do it for my birthday book haul / part 4 of all my signed books. So I hope you join me for the inevitable part 5 of all my signed books. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.